The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure you join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Ginger edition of the Tell Us Why podcast. I am your host, Jack Darrenpool, here not alongside my co-host, Michael Ketchen. Today we'll be talking to Jonathan Barbeau. He is, or Mr. Jonathan, as those around the world know him.
Right.
Not trying to get weird, but this guy's kind of famous. So I only know him of the cigar business and learned quite a few things when Jake sent over his bios, like certified living legend. No joke. We'll get to that.
You got to understand, I've got him. When you told me you weren't going to be here, I had to go and get, the best person I know, because what's better than two gingers? If one ginger isn't great, you get two of them. And we get to have a cigar on the episode, so it all makes sense.
But before we bring Mr. Jonathan into the studio, Mike, what's going on in the business?
Yes, as I mentioned, a lot of big changes, a lot of big goals we set way back at the start of the year have been hit. Close on a really big deal, put us over the yearly growth number. So that's always good to kind of set those goals and kind of check them off as you hit.
Nice meeting targets.
It is. What about you? What do you got going on?
So, not going to lie, seasonal depression starting to set in. I need to go south. I think I got to go check on my Florida properties. But I got a 22 unit seaside. Oh, I love the seaside. I love the ocean.
Yep.
I got a 22 unit seaside apartment complex that's on the horizon. Hopefully that something will happen with that. But
like that.
Also I got to give a shout out real quick. Remember earlier a couple of months ago in the spring, not to date this, but talking about outsourcing landscaping.
Yes.
Told you I had an individual who was taking over that for me.
Yes.
His parents sent me a text a couple days ago, right after Halloween.
Yeah.
And told me that he started a business at school called Sweet Success and is selling his candy to the rest of the school.
This is the greatest kid of all time.
Like, this is great. Like, this kid is great. He's going to be so successful. I love it. So
I can't wait till he's a billionaire.
Shout out. I know he listens, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Look at that. Well, like I said, I'm very excited for today's guest. He's definitely way more fun to hang out with than you are. So I can't wait to get him on. But before we do that.
Not even offended.
It's true. You can't lie with the truth. Can't argue with the truth. Let's hear who this week's episode of the Tell Us Why podcast is brought to us by.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monteith, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monteith. He'll get you covered.
All right. So Mr. Jonathan is a podcast host on the Cigar Authority, a soon-to-be house hacker, manager at Two Guys Smoke Shop in Salem, New Hampshire, a DJ, a professional swing dance instructor who is inducted into the National Living Legends of Dance in 2015.
I didn't even know that.
He's got a lot of stuff going on.
You asked for my bio. I tried to give you, a fraction.
He is the world's most interesting man. At least the most interesting.
But also, you made mortgage payment based solely on the sale of ads on the back of a business card? What is that all about?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Before we get into how I became a DJ, so at this point I'm a DJ and I got a mortgage and I bought too much house because we could back then. This was just prior to the big crash and I needed to make the mortgage payment and I don't pay things late. So we had a big snowstorm in the early part of January, and that put my income at risk because I missed out on 2 weddings because of the snowstorm. The wedding straight up got canceled, no postponement listed, And so I'm short $4,000 on the month. So I came up with this idea. And if you know an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, I told the printer who I sold the 11th ad to, I'll put your ad on my business card for free. And I printed this 9 by 15 business card with my picture on the front of it, all my details, huge. And on the back, my plan was to sell 10, but he was willing to do the printing for free. So I had 1,000 cards printed. I sold the ads for $250 a piece. I made my mortgage payment, and it was just straight gangsta, old school hustle.
I love it. You, Jack, are you hearing this? That is not a victim mindset. Jack, get out your notepad on this episode, buddy. We're going to school. All right? So that is just a tremendous story. And you know what? Honestly, I'd be surprised, but as I mentioned, gingers, we just get it done. So I have so many things that I want to touch on. But I'm going to start with, before I put him on blast, my personal favorite Jonathan story, which I don't know if he remembers how much it resonated or not. But I've got to know Jonathan over the few years coming in, as you mentioned, the two guys
almost a
smoke
decade.
shop. It has been a while. And actually, Tell Us Why is here with the great Chrissy and the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe because of Jonathan. But Jonathan, I don't know if we can see it or not, is wearing a hat that he tends to wear quite often. And it says good, better, and best.
Yeah.
And without giving away the whole story, we'll let you get into it. But that, I think, at least when we talk, really speaks to your mindset and how it kind of shows up in everything you do, at least in my opinion, from what I know of you. So can you kind of start with that story and kind of get into that?
My 6th grade math teacher, who has passed away this past year, and his mantra in the 6th grade stuck with me. And we became friends as adults later on. But he used to say to us, good, better, best. Never let it rest till the good gets better and the better gets best. It just stuck in my head. It was a stupid rhyme, but that's been my mindset since the 6th grade. That it's so easy to look at your life and say, oh, this bad thing happened to me. You know what? I ate today. I have clothes on. The heat turned on. Things are, realistically, things are pretty good. I live in the United States. I mean, I'm in the land of opportunity. Things are pretty good. How do I make them better? And how do I become the best? And whatever the best is up to you. Do you want to be the best, the leader in your industry? Do you want to be the one everyone looks up to? Do you want to be the most famous? Whatever that is, for me, it's just each individual thing I want to get better at. But I don't start off from things are bad. I start off from things are good. How do I make them better? And how do I become the best?
Just go back and just listen to it 3,
Seriously,
4,
go back.
5 times.
I've arrived because I listen to this podcast every friggin' week, and you say that only certain times. So I'm honored that I got that so early in the show.
I appreciate it because it's only worth a few episodes. But I just want to encapsulate. We all have these experiences in life, right? We all are going to go through shit, for lack of a better word. And we're going to have these pivotal moments that we're going to draw on and find inspiration. So you had something very early on that had this pivotal moment that shifted a mindset that you can adapt. It's almost like a shield in a way, where when you're facing adversity and you're facing that. So now jumping forward to today, where are you at in all your entrepreneurial activities and how does that mindset show up?
Well, it shows up. I got officially divorced in January. I didn't take any money out of the divorce. I didn't lose any money out of the divorce. Things just split, but I walked away from a condo that was paid for completely. And so I walked away virtually penniless.
Basically starting fresh.
Completely fresh. I mean, not a whole lot of money to my name other than the little bit of emergency fund that I had. And I basically followed Gary Vee's principle of it doesn't matter what shoes I'm wearing, it doesn't matter what clothes I have. I don't have to eat at fancy restaurants, and I just saved every penny. And I think his record, he was making $40,000 when he first started, and he saved $9,000 out of that $40,000. I was pretty damn close. And I just stockpiled and stockpiled and stockpiled. Did little odd jobs, did little gigs here and there. With COVID happening, not a whole lot going on with DJing, but when I could get something, I took it. Teaching a private lesson in dance for a wedding couple. Whatever I could get, I got it, but I didn't spend it. I put it in the bank, or if they paid me in cash, every penny is in my billfold right here. So that's my mindset at the time, and I saved up enough money to be able to use 3% to put down on a house. I bought a little too much house, but real estate
you
for
just
me
keep
is
doing
fairly
it again
safe.
and again.
This was a little bit too much house. The first house, I had no business buying.
Okay.
But this one is a safe space in Salem, New Hampshire. The property values don't go down in Salem. It's close enough to Boston. It's a desirable location near good schools. So, I bought it private sale. So
Yep.
I saved $15,000. The seller saved $15,000 in commissions. I don't know how you guys feel about real estate people, but
Not good.
if you can save that money and you can find a good private sale, and I bought it from a friend, there was no squabbling.
Yep.
I told him up front I'm not going to perform an inspection until after the purchase, and that was it. We had no issues.
And now we're talking about house hacking, aren't we?
Well, I learned about house hacking on your podcast, and it intrigues me because I do live alone, and I can rent the rooms out for about $1,000 a piece.
Yep.
So I will be net positive on my cash flow the second room rents.
So essentially, what Jonathan just said right there, this is a gentleman establishing careers, establishing everything he's doing, and he's still willing to learn. Again, back to that mindset piece, right? We're going from good to better to best. Now we're going to house hack. We're going to transform a liability into an asset. We're going to start creating wealth, other streams of income. All the stuff we've talked about in the Financial Freedom Series, all the stuff we talked about in the Tell Us Why community, the common themes you'll hear from all these guests. Jonathan just encapsulated it all. And I mean, credit to you, you're taking massive action. I mean, this is all happening in the last few months. This is
Correct.
not, I mean, I think the ability to push through, you're starting over. And that's one of these instances in life,
I also leveraged a relationship with the bank where
Okay, fair enough.
I went with the bank that the company that I work for does their business. I'm not going to mention names because I was unscrupulous. Not unscrupulous. I was forceful. So I leveraged that relationship because there were some obstacles coming up about really, you're almost at 3%. And
Yep.
I'm just like, well, I do make the deposits every week and it's a sizable amount from this other company. So, and they were like, you know
what they say, though?
Let's stretch. What they did was they stretched the closing a little bit so that every week more money was going into that account, and I just was eating ramen noodles instead until I got to the nut and then put it in. Because the other thing I wasn't willing to do was leave myself penniless on buying the house.
Yep.
I needed to have
Can't be house poor.
some liquid in case the furnace went.
Yep.
Just enough. And I was at the end of the whole thing. I was able to make that happen. It was great.
And Jack, what do we talk about, right? Your network is your net worth.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with utilizing the people that you know.
You're absolutely right. And
You just call
it's
the
all
president of the
partnerships.
bank and just be like, listen, I need you to make this happen for
And
me.
I happen to know this guy, and it all kind of goes that way.
They know who I am.
Well, that is awesome. So, I mean, Jack, I know you wanted to get into some stuff where I just take this whole, because I'm about to start geeking out here. You might just be kind of
Briefly touch on the Cigar Authority. Like, I love that podcast. I'm a huge
we
fan.
should.
It's
You want
a
a
huge
fanboy?
podcast. Like, it's kind of a big deal. So, why don't we touch on that real quick?
So how that happened is I was DJing in my too expensive house in the basement. I had set up a studio, and I had DJs come over. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, because I'm a DJ, so at the time, full-time DJ, so I didn't keep regular hours. I would be up till all hours of the night and then sleep in and then get up and start my day later than everybody else. So it's 2, 3 in the morning. And all the DJs and we had some wine, we're playing records, we're just having a blast. And I call my web designer at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, we need to find a way to record this and broadcast it because this is some of the best mixing I've ever witnessed and ever done. He called me 3 hours later, 6 o'clock in the morning when he gets up because I had woke him up at 3 and just to break my balls and says, all right, here's how we're going to go about doing this. So we researched some stuff. So the very first broadcast of Webcast Wednesday, I sent out to my entire AOL email list.
It's called Webcast Wednesday? Okay.
It was called Webcast Wednesday.
Did you have a little bit more hair there? Can we find a YouTube
No
clip
more
of
hair.
this? No.
Dave Garofalo, the owner of Two Guys Smoke Shop and my partner on the Cigar Authority, partner in quotes, he owns it. He watched the first show and emailed me that week and said, how do we do this with cigars? And I emailed back immediately, I have no idea, but I'm in. Because one of my other mindsets is the answer is always yes.
Oh my God. I could geek out about this. Please
The
keep going. He
answer
needs to hear this.
is always yes. It's not no because the answer is yes. Here's what it will cost. Let the other person say no.
Yep.
The answer for me is yes, I'm in. How in
Don't
are
make
you?
the decision for him.
How in are you?
Yep.
So I said, I'm in. And I showed up on that Monday. He handed me his black card and said, go down to Daddy's Junkie Music and buy all the equipment. I went down to Daddy's Junkie Music, bought the equipment, and started wiring it and playing around. And after about a month of messing around with the equipment, I was able to get all the signal pads we needed, because this was not going to be, it was exactly what we have here in the studio, but 12 years ago.
I heard it was like on a fold-up table. Like, it's not what we have right now.
It wasn't as elaborate of a set, but the idea of the board and being able to take callers and in real time, all of that stuff had to exist from podcast one. And he would throw new things at me, and I would say, yes, I need a week. Yes, I need 2 weeks. I've never heard of that before. Let me do some research. And after a month, we were ready to do our test show, and here we are, 12 years. We're getting ready to celebrate going into year 13.
It's unbelievable.
And I mean, there's only a handful of podcasts that have been around that long.
Oh, there's so many. I have so many things to unpack there. Did you know before Dave saw that mixed, what you call it? Webcast Wednesdays, had you known him before that?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, wow, this is just straight cold ass.
No, so what happened is he was throwing a mixed martial arts fight, and he needed a DJ. So, and I was throwing
Dave Garofalo sort of mixed martial arts fight.
Yeah, that's a long story.
This is going off the rails quick.
I needed a sponsor for my boats and hose party. I had rented out a boat, and I was throwing this pimp and hoe party. So I need a sponsor, and I want cigars for everybody that wants them on the ship.
Oh my God.
I approach him and I say, this is what I'm looking for. And he says, I suppose you want me to pay for the flyers too. I hadn't thought of that. And I said, yeah, of course. So whatever the price was, let's say $600 worth of sponsorship, he's on the flyer and he supplies me with cigars. And he goes, now let's talk about why you're really here. And I said, okay. He said, I'm throwing this mixed martial arts fight. It's a 3,000 person arena. And I don't want people to hear the music. I want them to feel the music. Can you do it? And I said, of course I can.
The answer is always yes.
The answer is always yes. I was shitting my pants when I left that meeting because I didn't have the equipment to do 350 people. I maxed out at 200. He wants 3,000. So I had to go to where the event was at the Ice Center, find out what they had for sound. I had to buy sound. In the end, I made no money. I ended up with equipment that I could use for other mixed martial arts fights, and I did. I made money on that equipment. But in the end, the answer was yes. And when he handed me my check, he said, I lost $55,000 on this event because it was not a sellout. If I had made 1 penny, I'd be giving you a tip, but here's the price that we agreed on. You are the only vendor out of 100 vendors that delivered. And I mean, the T-shirt guy printed the logo on the wrong side of the shirt. The lighting guy showed up with the wrong rig. There was supposed to be a 3-camera shoot. Only 2 cameras were there. The pay-per-view never aired until the next day. He had nightmares. The only thing that he had was me delivering, because I don't accept failure. I paid another DJ to stand next to me with the instructions of, if I die. These were his instructions. I'm not exaggerating. His name's John Manning, DJ Midas.
Oh, my God.
You have to promise me, if I die, you push play, and then you call 911. Otherwise, you can't have the gig. And he said, I promise. So I paid him too much to stand there and do nothing so that gig went off without a hitch.
This is... Wow. I mean, the Cigar Authority, we're not talking... So to give the listeners at home, you guys are, 50,000 downloads a week, countless on YouTube. And keep in mind, because it's a, quote, tobacco show, it's an entertaining show that talks about cigars, but it's a tobacco show. They're up against... Yeah, you can't advertise, you can't do this. So just the loyalty fan base, I mean, we could take this a million directions. But where I want to stay with this, which is the really important part, we're on a call because, again, you're always a resource. So Jonathan's heard a little bit about my business, Jack's business, and he goes, you got to meet this person who, by the way, happens to be my sister, who's an unbelievable resource in this space where we use call centers and things for marketing and customer service, et cetera. So I'm talking to her, and to put you on the spot, she tells me something that it was kind of like that aha moment. When you meet a person, you go, well, how'd that guy get like that? She said, I believe it was your father. Your dad said to you, you can't have fun making money. Life doesn't work like that.
Well, I was always looking to make games. He was in construction, worked very hard for his whole life, and we would go out because we were poor. So when you became of age, and I mean 5, you're walking around the job site in 32 degrees, picking up nails.
Tell Cam, get after it, Jack.
Sweeping the deck off, everything, holding rafters, just crazy, crazy stuff that you would never expect a 5-year-old to be doing now.
Yep.
And I would always make games out of everything. How can I be faster? All right, with my brother, I'm 7, he's 5. Who can pick up the most nails in the next 20, whatever. And my dad would always say, you will never get paid to play, just work. So it works in 2 ways. One, I believe every single day I get up, I put my clothes on, I put on my best face, and I come into work and I leave my problems at home. So I report to work every day that I'm on the schedule, without fail, without question. COVID, you got problems there, but before COVID, I played hurt, I played sick, always show up to work. So that was the one piece of it. But getting paid to play, I made it my life's mission. And most of my life is about spite, which you know as a ginger.
We are angry people by nature. Yes.
In my life, I managed a roller skating rink. I got paid to roll around on the floor. I got paid to be a DJ, play music. I got paid to be a gymnastics coach, bounce on the trampoline. I get paid to be a podcaster, a dancer, now soon to be a house hacker, where my house is going to pay me to play in the space of, I kind of like the little doing the odds and ends. I'm putting in a pocket door right now. I like doing that. At some point, if it gets to be too much, I'll pay someone to do it. But right now I'm paying contractors to come in and teach me how to do things so that I can be self-sufficient. So my entire life has been based around doing things that get paid to play. I smoke cigars for a living.
Which is
What's better than
awesome
that?
Gig.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I didn't even ask you guys, is smoking allowed on there?
Well, yeah, it is today. Should be all along. To be fair to Chrissy, she's been pushing that since day one, and Jack was too much about the brand. I tried to push him,
Yeah,
Well, I hope you appreciate it, Jack. This is my brand.
There it is.
I like it. I like it.
I mean, Jack, think about that mindset and what we're preaching and how that shows up in your investing, my investing. I mean, Jack, what's the book you're teaching Cam again?
Oh, the $100 to $1 million, something like that. Like basically, it's getting from $100 to $1 million. Just finished that book. We got a new one. It's about investing 101. We're just gonna keep going with that.
How old's your boy?
9.
That's awesome.
I think he just needs to spend a week with Jonathan selling cigars. I don't know if he's going to carry on board with that, but
Seriously,
I think he'd learn a lot.
Sales are so important.
A lot.
Going back, like Jonathan, like I literally wrote in here, like pig and shit. Like you just seem like the type of guy that is like living the life, like having a great time. Like you get to smoke cigars every day, get to go on the podcast. You're doing all this other stuff, DJing,
dancing.
Like, honestly, it's just impressive stuff. Like.
Well, the thing is, I'm the type of personality that if I walked into a room and it was filled with horse shit, I would start digging, because where there's horse shit, there's got to be a pony somewhere, right? That's the mindset. It's ever positive. I just don't have bad days because I don't have time to have bad days. I don't have the room in my life. I don't have the energy for it. I got the energy for finding the positive in things and moving to the next level, which is from good to better, and then being the best.
And staying with that.
That mindset.
Well, yeah, and I think where it shows up, now you're podcasting, but really any business as a whole, and I know we'll get into one of the questions with the specific advice, but as someone who's kind of run the gamut, right? You saw the Cigar Authority at its inception. You hit the nail on the head. You guys are 12 years into this, right? You've got the mindset. You've had the growth. There's been ups, there's been downs. COVID as a whole, just for your industry, never mind it.
Yeah.
What is kind of the advice? So because now this is the hot thing, right? 17-year-olds are doing this, 20-year-olds. I think you're so genuine, and I don't know if that's the tip or not, but what would you give someone trying to break into the podcasting space? What would that advice be?
Just like you guys do, and the reason you guys have been successful isn't that you're doing something innovative. You're doing something that there's a million podcasts out there that deal with this space. But what separates the two of you and why I listen to your show is you are into what your guest is talking about. You are trying to learn yourself, and that curiosity is what makes for good listening, I think. And in the cigar space, when I first started off, I would write down the interview questions, and they were all basic, plain Jane stuff. Nothing that was teaching me anything.
Yep.
And now when I interview somebody, I want to learn something from that podcast. And that's what makes the podcast interesting, is not just, what's the blend of your cigar or how long does it burn? None of those questions matter because you can look that up on the internet. I want to know, what was your drive, the cigar I'm smoking now, when I asked Justo Aroa that made it, why did he choose to make the Robusto stronger than the Toro? Because that's not how anybody else does it.
There's a story there.
There's a story behind that, and that to me is interesting, and I think that the listener finds it interesting as well.
Jack hit it. I mean,
I do.
It's a must listen for us. I mean, how good of a resource, even when we were starting Tell Us Why, and we kind of touched on the story earlier, the whole way this happened. Jack and I have been kicking this around for a year and a half, but we didn't want to take the time to, we don't want to go buy microphones and learn all this and put out a really, inefficient product. And you're downstairs, you're like, have you been upstairs? I'm like, well, no, ass. I've been coming here for a decade. Like, I don't know what's up there. And then he tells me, and it was like this world. It was like this perfect moment. And, obviously we're fortunate to have, the production team we have, the professionalism of the whole thing. We're complimented on it every week. And also even just getting to know you guys and the blueprint of being genuine. I think we've even kind of got a little bit more comfortable as we go, Jack. And that's a testament to you guys really pushing. And even the conversations we have, the feedback. A lot of people don't know, Jonathan, for the first few weeks of doing it while we may be a little anxious, was kind enough to give me weekly feedback.
I took notes.
And
I took notes as I was listening to the show.
Super helpful.
Because I wish there was someone listening to our first podcast. We had to listen and take notes, but you don't know what you don't know when you're in that spot.
Yep.
I can see what you don't know as a more seasoned veteran and say, okay, your first couple shows. Right now, I don't think there's anything I could teach you guys. You guys are killing it. But early on,
we're okay. Thank you.
I would take notes and say, this is a spot.
I got to learn how to read. So
we all struggle with that, Jack.
Eating coffee out of your episodes, that's a win. All right.
It's just a nervous reaction.
Yeah, that's something. So I guess, and actually, so now we do have a read and answer email here, Jack, that I was going to go on. I was going to start asking the resources, so I'm going through this. So I know there's necessarily not a book, but what is a resource you would recommend for our listeners out there?
I follow Gary V and Gary Vaynerchuk on YouTube. I got thrown off Facebook because of cigars and Instagram.
Oh my God!
So I lost. Listen. I was a super user of the product. I bought stuff that was in the ads. I had 5,000 followers. I had more than 5,000. I had 5,000 friends in quotes, but more than 5,000 followers, pushing 7,000. And Facebook booted me because they said I violated their terms of service. I never got a warning. I just kicked off. That profile is gone. My phone number's burned. So I really have YouTube, and I don't even have cable anymore. I just watch Gary V on YouTube. Every interview, I just find his energy to be intoxicating. I find his no bullshit attitude. People ask him, why do you swear? And he's just like, that's fucking me. This is who I am.
Yeah, why would I be something else?
Yeah.
So I just like how intense he is. I like how he puts his real self out there. And I like his attitude of, it took you guys a year and a half to start your podcast. He would have said, the second you had the idea, make your first podcast right there. You got an iPhone, pull out your iPhone, record it, and watch it and see how it does. Put it out there on social media and see how it does. And I think that's missing in the world right now. Everybody wants to plan things out and have things be perfect. Be okay with imperfection. Wow. Make the mistakes because they're going to happen.
Yep.
And then when you make them, own them. Yeah, I fucked that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, that was good. Not that was bad. I fucked it up. You know what? I feel like we were honest with ourselves and we had a good idea here. How do we make this better? And then slowly become the best.
I like that. I absolutely like that.
On that note, I think it was a Gary V thing that I was watching the other day, and he was talking about schooling. Like, you go to school, you take a test. Like, if you don't pass that test, you fail. Like, there's only one right answer to the question. And all through school, you're doing the same thing. You have to get the question right. If you get it wrong, you fail.
Yep.
And it's that kind of is ingrained in our children, and is one of the reasons that I'm personally teaching my son otherwise, that it's okay to fail. Like, there's not one way to solve a problem. There's often multiple ways. And just because it's not the way that the teacher wanted or the question called for, there's other ways to figure things out.
Well,
so I think
so important.
To jump on that, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, Jack, and it's funny, Jonathan just said it. As you guys know, I was previously in education, and the school we turned around, and it's funny, it's now the buzzwords in business. And I was actually talking to the principal I worked with a few weeks ago about how much of the stuff we were teaching in Lawrence has now come into the world where we went from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And the struggle we had, not with the students, but getting the teachers on board with encouraging mistakes to be made in the classroom. And the hardest thing from an evaluation standpoint, we would evaluate teachers. The thing they all struggle with to a teacher was they would all bail the kid out when they struggled, because they didn't want to see their anxiety was projecting on the student. They thought it was a reflection on their performance. And we never even got great at it. And just a little bit of improvement helped. But it was really trying to flip that switch to what you just said, where, like Jack just said, we have these monumental moments in our life. It's sixth grade. You don't know that's going to be monumental. But even beyond the words of what that instructor told you, that teacher, it was really the shifting of the mindset that can catapult 30, 40 years later. You know what I mean?
There's a quote floating around there that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Absolutely.
So there's a reason why I call my sister every single day. She lives in Florida. I can't physically be next to her every day, but she is a person that I touch base with she doesn't take the call every day, but I call her every day because the conversation, and her and I do not have earth-shattering conversations every second of every day. It just doesn't happen. But when we hit a vein of something and we go down a rabbit hole together, it changes how I look at things.
Yep.
And so Dave Saba, somebody that I made sure that I checked in with regularly toward the end of his life. I would talk to him every single day. And that's the whole thing, is you want to keep bringing your average up. If you have somebody in your life that you just observe them and you say, okay, this is not the behavior. If I did this, I wouldn't feel good about my life. You need to get that person out of your life. And when you look at somebody like Mike or like Jack that seem to have their shit together, I need these people in my life more. And that's all you do. I'm not saying excommunicate anybody, don't have a fight with anybody, but just evaluate the people you're spending time with and spend time with the people that are going to enrich your life in however they can.
Yeah, total accountability. Absolutely. Owning it, and be intentional with your action, the people you're spending your time with. Jack, we could go on and on. I think we got to hit him though. You think he's ready?
Let's do it.
I don't know if he's gonna be ready to handle this.
Time for the big 3, but before we do, let's hear from QS Advisors.
I like it.
It's now time for the Big 3 segment, brought to you by QS Private Lending. Are you looking to finance your next deal quickly and reliably with less hassle and paperwork? QS Private Lending is one of the oldest and largest hard money lenders to real estate investors in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Our quick and simple short-term loans require no appraisals and have enabled hundreds of builders and investors to profitably acquire and renovate thousands of residential and commercial properties. To experience the QS difference for yourself, call or text Luke Conroy today at 315-323-0250. That's 315-323-0250. QS Private Lending.
All right, so it is time. I'm going to get sued by Bruce Buffer for that. For the big 3.
Oh my God.
So, just for the record,
Mr.
your voice
Jonathan
is nowhere near the timbre of his, so I think you're safe.
I think
Does
you're.
he have this phrase trademarked?
He might pay you not to do it. Actually.
Deal. All right. So, Mr. Jonathan, in your opinion, is college worth it?
I'm going to say no, because really, and it doesn't matter if you go to college or don't go to college. Drive is what matters. Ooh. So if you have the intention set that you're going to move forward in your life and you're going to continually improve, college is not going to do anything to enhance that or take away from it. So I think that asking whether or not, and nothing against your question, but asking about college specifically isn't all that important. What's important is, do you have the drive? And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do. And if you're wondering whether or not you should go to college, if you're going to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, something where you need the degree, absolutely. But if your goal is to be independent when it comes to wealth and to grow your wealth, college is absolutely not necessary. The Tell Us Why podcast is all you need.
Well, thank you, sir. And then we'll teach you how to go throw boats and hose parties. So that's all I'm focused on.
If I ever throw another one, you guys will be on
absolutely.
my VIP list.
So with that, wow, this is going to be hard to follow up on. What is one piece of actionable advice you go back and give to your 18-year-old self?
At 18, although I was spiteful, I wasn't really sure I could get paid to play. So I would actually go back to my 18-year-old self and say, if you treat life like the game that it is, you can absolutely get paid to play. And I would put myself at ease back then, because hearing that from me, if I visited myself in the past, hearing it from myself from the future would light a fire under my ass at 18. The fire didn't really get lit until I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah, and that time compounds. We talk about that. I mean, that's such a great tip.
6 extra years or 5 extra years?
Think about
absolutely,
that, expediting. Yeah. That's such a great tip. You just nailed it. I mean, you absolutely just nailed it. Wow.
Play.
All right, the big one.
So on the other end of the spectrum, what is one thing you would want your 90-year-old self to say to you?
That the game is never over. That I could have retired 40 years ago, but I love playing too much. That's what I hope happens when I'm 90.
That was thoughtful and intentional. That was good.
I like.
Well, you sent me the thing.
Yeah, but I mean, that should go on a T-shirt because, like, you knew that was good, because a lot of people every week, a little behind the scenes, we get how much people get tripped up and get nervous with that one. It's like this ongoing joke. Everyone gets nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say. You know, we were prepping Dave when he's going to come on one day. He's like, I don't know what I'd say. I'm like, that's the one that gets you. That was good. Can we get that one more time? Give me that one more time.
The game is never over. I could have retired 40 years ago, but I love playing too much. That's what I hope my 90-year-old self would say to me.
I absolutely love it because I don't think I'm ever going to stop either. I'd like to think I would.
Put that on a t-shirt.
That would be a great thing. That's going on the Tell Us Why swag. Gonna check out the big shop cartel for the Tell Us Why swag.
The other thing I would want to say to my 18-year-old self is that you're never really going to go blind. You can continue with that activity as long as you want. But that was number 2. That was number 2.
And Chrissy's going to have to do some editing as we go through.
Here we go.
All right, Jonathan, where can people connect with you, learn more about you? What do you want them to check out? I know you got a lot going on.
All right, so since I got kicked off Facebook, if you want to find me, join MeWe. And I became everything I do is out of spite. So Facebook kicked me off. They don't want me. I could create another profile like other people have done. I'm not doing it. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram. Fuck them. So I joined MeWe and I pay MeWe. You don't have to. You can get on MeWe for free. There's no ads. There's no nothing. I pay them because they're not Facebook. So if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on MeWe. Or you can go to my website, MrJonathanIsMyDJ.com, which quick story, another spiteful one.
Oh, please.
I tried to pay the guy that owns MrJonathan.com $4,000 to give me that domain. He said no. I got pissed off, and I learned SEO so well that at the height of my career, DJing in COVID has been non-existent, really. So I don't come up number 1 in the Google search as of this past year. But prior to that, you type in Mr. Jonathan, MrJonathanIsMyDJ.com is the first result. MrJonathan.com was always number 2 or number 3.
That is amazing. That is, again, spite can be, I tell people all
Spite
the
is
time.
such a good motivator.
All these, you get it.
That's
all these
the
people
driving
think, yes,
force.
Anger is pure. It fuels you. Unbelievable. Any parting words for the Tell Us Why community?
Well, I think we've beat the pay-to-play thing to death, but I think if you work in a service industry of any kind, so you're a property owner and you have tenants, the customer is not always right. In fact, often a customer is an asshole, but they're the only reason why you're there. And that's something that you have to remember. The person who's your tenant, the person who is going to buy into the next deal, their personality has nothing to do with anything. They're the only reason why you're there. They're the reason why you're in the game. I work in retail. I got customers that I can't stand, but they're the reason I came to work. And that shift in mindset makes it so that you can deal with the more difficult people and you take the personality part out of it. Yeah, this person's an asshole. That's fine. They're the reason why I'm here. And now my mindset is, how do I make this next deal? How do I sell the next cigar? How do I service the next client from a DJ perspective or a dance perspective? Whatever that is, that the customer is the reason why we're here.
Wow.
Or the tenant, however you want to word that.
Jake, moving forward, this is the level of professionalism I expect from every guest. Just so we're all on the same page. The bar has been raised. That's unbelievable. Jack, where can people, good luck following that up, where can people learn more about the Tell Us Why community?
If you don't follow us already on social media, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the stuff that Jonathan's kicked off of.
Yes, maybe MeWe soon.
Basically every social media platform there is. All the links are in the description below. And if you're new and just listening for the first time, head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe.
Or go over to Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, find us, rate, and review. It's a big help. Better yet, if you're in the New Hampshire area, come check us out, the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. We record live most Wednesdays, and we'd love to have you here.
I'm on YouTube as well as Mr. Jonathan, and I would love it if I could pick up a couple of more subscribers. So jump on to Mr. Jonathan on YouTube.
We will share that.
I got videos for you.
We will share that quote of the week.
I'll check that out. So the quote of the week is Shannon Adler. Courage doesn't happen when you have all the answers. It happens when you're ready to face the questions you have been avoiding your whole life.
Hell yeah.
That is a good one. And you didn't
That
stutter.
is a good one. I
Good
like
job.
that one. And
Also,
that is it
keep
for
the lid
today.
out of your mouth.
Be sure to join us on next week's episode. And until next week,
Bet on yourself.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.